Hello, dear student, and a very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's class. But before starting the class, I want to remind you one thing. I am getting questions that where are the other parts of the same lecture? I want to remind you this that whenever you are going to open the school channel, there you will get the option of playlist at the top. From there, you can select your class and watch all the parts of that same lecture provided to you. Students, please watch all the lectures so that you are able to understand the chapter well. Now, I hope that you are watching also the videos, reading your chapters, and preparing your notes in additional copy of SST. Now, today we are going to start the second chapter of civics, that is secularism and the constitution. I am starting this chapter because it is relatable to the first chapter, our constitution, so it will be easier for you to understand this chapter more easily. So here I am providing you the first part. I will provide you the second part also. Now, so let's have a look on the content. What is democracy? What is secularism? Need for secularism in India? Secularism in India? How can we determine that India, in its true sense, is a secular country? Why is it so important to separate religion from the power of the state? Principles of secularism in India, secularism, and the constitution. So, let's start the first one. What is democracy? Students, all of you are knowing that democracy and secularism are very tightly held together. You are knowing what is democracy, but I am revising you once again. Democracy is a form of government which is ruled by the representatives elected by the people of that country. All of us are knowing that democracy means a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That means the government that is formed by the people only, for the people only, and the government is formed by the people only. The government is of the people. So, now let's have a look on what is secularism. Secularism is a belief system that rejects religion or the belief that religion should not be a part of the affairs of the state. All of us are knowing that the word secularism means that is free from religion. So in context of India we can say that secularism is a belief system that rejects religion, that do not give importance to the religion. We cannot say that do not give importance. We can say that the power of state and religion is separate in our country. Secularism means equal treatment of all the religions by the state, that is the country. Secularism refers to the idea of providing equal rights to every individual who belongs to any other religion in India. I am showing you one example through this video. Akbar and Aurangzeb were two Mughal emperors who ruled over a very large part of the Indian subcontinent. Both were able administrators and effective rulers, yet history does not look both of them in the same light. Akbar is called Akbar the Great, but this title is never given to Aurangzeb. Even though it was during the reign of Aurangzeb that the Mughal Empire reached its great extent, do you recall from your history lessons a key aspect which separates these two Mughal emperors? Yes, during the reign of Akbar, people were allowed to practice their own religion and the administration do not favor any particular religion against the other. Whereas during the age of Aurangzeb, there is no religious tolerance. Aurangzeb had a fanatic view of Islam. His army razed many Hindu temples and Hindus were forced to attempt to convert to Islam. Those who did not agree for conversion were killed. Hence, Aurangzeb had gone down in history not as a great ruler but as an intolerant oppressor. Now, I hope that all of you are able to understand the importance of religion in any kingdom or in any country by the medium of this video. Now we will learn about why there is a need of secularism in India. India has always been a land of diversities. All of us are knowing that India is a largest diverse country. India is a very diverse country. Diverse languages, diverse means different. Diverse languages, scripts, physical features, that means the geographical features, music, dance forms, paintings, and religions have all contributed to India's diverse culture. The leader of India realized that to preserve the diversity of the country, it was important to allow all the religions to flourish. So, after the independence, the framers of the constitution realized that for the development of the country, it is and for the peace, so that people can live with peace and harmony, it is important that they allow all the religion to flourish. To flourish means to develop. The people who are in majority always try to establish their superiority over the group of people who are in minority. We are having lots of examples that shows this, that the people who are in majority always try to establish their superiority over the group of people who are in minority. That is why the leaders of the constitution or the leaders of the country included in the constitution certain provisions that would ensure secularism in India. That is why when the framing of the constitution was going on, at that time only this provision of secularism was added to the constitution. The Constitution of India provides the provision of separation of state power from the religion. Our constitution provides the provision that the separation of state power from the religion, that the government or the state power is free from any religion. It also lays down principles that strictly prevent dominance of a particular community over other. It also lays down principles that any community that is in majority, like we can take an example of our country only, that Hindus are in majority, but they are not having any right to dominate any minority community. We are not having right, Hindus are not having this right in our country to dominate any particular community over the other. Now, students, for showing you the secularism in India, I want to tell you one story that is given in your textbook. Mansi's cousin brother has come to Delhi for the first time. Mansi wants to take him around the city. There are so many places to visit: historical monuments, malls, places of worship, markets, and parks. Today, they are going to visit some of the famous places of worship. Her father explained to them the itinerary for the day, that means the planning for the day. First, we will go to Jama Masjid at Old Delhi. Then, we will visit Bangla Sahib Gurudwara and Gurudwara Rakabganj. Then we will go to the Sacred Heart Cathedral. Thereafter, we will have lunch at Connaught Place. After that, we will visit the Birla Mandir, Kalibari, Lotus Temple, and the Akshardham Temple. It is going to be a really hectic day. Temple, church, mosque, gurudwara, so many places of worship for so many different faiths. So, what do you observe with this story? There are different places of worship in the city for different religions. Of course, India is a secular country and people are free to follow the religion of their choice and build places of worship. Now, we will see secularism in India. So, students, India as a country does not encourage any single religion, but any or every religion can be practiced on this land. In fact, many religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism originated in India. So, India is a country that does not encourage any single religion, but every religion can be practiced on this land. In fact, many religions like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism originated in India. Apart from these religions, many other ethnicities, that means many other belief, people those who belong to certain social group, many other beliefs called India their home. It means no one should be discriminated on the grounds of their religious practices and beliefs. This is the essence of secularism in India. In India, no one should be discriminated on the grounds of their religious practices and beliefs. This is only the essence, that means the presence of secularism in India. But how can we ensure that it is actually practiced in India? How can we ensure that secularism is actually practiced in India? So, students, that is what we are going to discuss through this chapter. Understanding secularism. If we look back in time, we can see people had been discriminated on the basis of religion for a very long time. In fact, the world history also provides us many examples of discrimination, exclusion, and persecution on the grounds of religion. Talking about the discrimination on the basis of religion, first horrific account that comes to my mind is chilling execution of Jews under the leadership of Adolf Hitler in Germany. You can see I have provided you some examples of discrimination on the grounds of religion. History, our history, or if we will refer to the world history, it is full of examples of discriminations on the grounds of religion. History provides us with many examples of discrimination, exclusion, and persecution on the grounds of religion. Germany and how several million were killed. Now, however, the Jewish state of Israel treats its own Muslim and Christian minorities quite badly. You can see one example. I'll tell you an example of a country that do not follow secularism. Example of a country that is not secular, that is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, the non-Muslim population is not allowed to build church, temple in the country, nor they can gather in a public place for prayers. So Saudi Arabia is a country where the non-Muslim, that means the people, those who are not Muslim, is not allowed to build church, temple in the country, nor they can gather in a place or a public place for prayers. This example is the evidence that member of one religious community either persecute, that means treat cruel or in unfair manner, or discriminate against members of other religious communities. Now, the discrimination takes place more easily when one religion is given official recognition by the state at the expense of other religion. If suppose that in India Hinduism, yeah, the population of Hindu community is more, much more. So if the government of India provides the power to them or official recognition to the Hinduism religion, what will happen after that? The discrimination started taking, yeah, the discrimination become more easily because the government only gave them official recognition on the expense of other religion. Like Saudi Arabia is a theocratic state. Please remember the word theocratic state. That means that is opposite of democracy. Sorry, that is opposite of secularism. Theocratic state, a country that follows one particular religion as state religion, because Saudi Arabia is a country that consider one religion, that is Islam, as their state religion. So this is the situation of a country where secularism is not being followed by the state. So this is only the reason since India follow secularism in its country. Now, how do we determine that India, in its true sense, is a secular country? How you will determine that India is a secular country? For that, we have already learned that the Constitution of India gives us the fundamental rights that protects us against the state power as well as against the domination of the majority. our constitution, that means the constitution of India only, provides us the fundamental rights that protect us against the state power. Next, we found that if we found that our fundamental rights are being violated by the state, we can go to the court. It protects us from the domination of the majority also. It also allows every individual a freedom, and our constitution also allows every individual a freedom. Freedom of what? A freedom to live by our religious belief and practices. We can follow our religious belief and we can practice our religion that they believe in whatever religion we believe, and also interpret them as they want. And we interpret our religion, we can define our religion as we want. Also, by keeping in mind this idea of religious freedom for all, and a constitution not only provides religious freedom to one person, it provides religious freedom to every one of us. India as a state has adopted a strategy of separating the power of religion and the power of state. So, India separates the power of state and religion totally. So, to conclude, we can say that India is a secular country with the belief that no one should be discriminated on the basis of religion they follow. Now, the question arises, why is it so important to separate religion from the power of the state? Why is it important to separate religion from the power of a state? For that, we can say that first reason we can provide, it is very important to do for a country to function democratically. It is important to do not discriminate people on the basis of religion so that the country can function democratically properly, because all countries of the world have more than just one religious group living in there. If we will talk about the other countries in comparison to India, all those countries are having more than one group of religious community, but India is a land of much religion. In India, so many religions are living together, and it is a possibility that among these groups one can be most likely in majority. So if we will take an example of another country, in that country it is possible that one or two religious groups are residing, and maybe one group is in majority. Another important reason, the next important reason is that, so for what we get from the first reason, we get from the first reason that in India it is important to follow democracy, or it is important to separate religious power from the state power, because India is a land where many religious communities reside. So it is impossible for India to give any official recognition to any one religion for maintaining the peace and harmony in the country. Now, the second reason is, another important reason to separate the religion from the state in a democratic society is the need to protect the freedom of individual. Why there is a need to separate religion from the state power? To protect the freedom of every individual. For example, one must be protected in case of anyone wants to exit from his or her religion. Suppose that I am a Hindu and I want to exit from my religion. Our constitution provides us this right also, that each and every individual is free to follow his or her religion. I can decide this, that which religion I want to follow. So, if I want to exit my religion and I want to adopt another religion, for this also I am free, and embrace another religion and have freedom to interpret religious teachings differently. I can also understand my religious teachings differently. That means it is not necessary that I follow the all the principles that are coming from past only. I can make some changes in my religion according to my belief. For that, you can take one perfect example of untouchability. A perfect kind of example for this kind of discrimination is the practice of untouchability. If we will go back to few decades in time, that at the time the Dalits in India, which referred to the oppressed caste in India, was subjected to untouchability by the upper classes of Hindus. At the time only, if we will go to our past, at the time only, the people those who belong to lower caste in Hindu community only, the people those who belong to lower class are subjected to untouchability, and their basic rights were violated, or they were not even allowed to follow their basic rights also. For instance, for example, I can tell you, they were not even allowed to enter in temple. The people those who belong to Dalit community, they were not allowed to enter temple also, not given access to common resources also, like water, well, pond, all these places, and not sometimes not allowed to wear footwear also. These are some of the examples I've been providing you. Basically, they were treated in a decimal manner. By all these examples, what we come to know that the Dalits were treated in a decimal manner by those who consider themselves to be superior than Dalits. But this practice have been long abolished. But this practice has been long abolished. Now it is not existing in India. How, now tell me, how you might feel that you dislike this practice within Hinduism, and therefore if you were present at the time, then you would try to bring in reform. When you suppose that you were present at the time and you are not liking this, the practice of untouchability in Hindu community, and if you are willing to oppose it, now what will happen after that? But think about it. If the state powers were in the hands of Hindus, but think about this, that the state power is in the hand of Hindus only, who support untouchability, then do you think you would have had easy task in hands? Then you think that you are able to change this principle? And even if you were the part of the dominant religious group, you might have faced a lot of resistance from your fellow members of your own community. Or if you want to abolish this practice and you are from the majority community, then your fellow beings only resist you. Your fellow beings only started opposing you. You know why? Because these members who have control over state power might have told you that there were only one interpretation of Hinduism, and you do not have the freedom to interpret this in a different way. And this is why it is important to separate religion from state. So what do we come to know from this? That in a Hindu community only, there is one minority group that is being oppressed and discriminated by the upper class society. Understood? That is why it is important to separate religion from the state power, to protect the individual from exiting, embracing, and differently interpreting any religion they want. Any religion they want. Now, next is principles of secularism in India. How India follows its secularism. What are the principles that India follows for maintaining secularism in India? First, it uses a strategy of distancing itself from religion. The first strategy is distancing. The Indian state is not ruled by a religious group, and nor does it support any one religion. Our state government is free from religion. The Indian state is not ruled by a religious group. Our leaders belongs to Hinduism, belongs to Islam, belongs to Christianity, Sikhism, every religion. And nor does it support any one religion. In India, government spaces like law courts, police stations, Government schools and offices are not supposed to display or promote any one religion. In India, any place, any public place that is run by the government, whether it is government school, offices, court, police station, they do not display or promote any one religion. You are also, as a student, you also get admission in a school without giving importance to your religion. Everyone is equal for the school community, school organization. Next principle that we follow, the second way is through a strategy of non interference. Non interference means this means that in order to respect the sentiment of all religions and not interfere with religious practices, the people, yeah, the government of India is not allowed to interfere in our religious practices unless and until it is not harming anyone. The state makes certain exceptions for particular religious communities unless and until it is not harming anyone. For example, you can see that the Sikhs, the male of Sikh, those who belong to community, they are having a provision of wearing turban, that pagdi, does not wear helmet. There is a provision of wearing helmet while you are driving, but Sikh does not wear helmet while driving. This is because the Indian state recognizes that wearing a pagdi or turban is central to a Sikh's religious practice. That is a religious practice that is important for the Sikh. In order not to interfere with this, allows an exception in the law. So our country or our government is not going to interfere in our religious practices unless and until it is harming to anyone. Now, next is intervention. The third way is through a strategy of intervention. So, students, in previous lecture also, when we were learning about secularism, at that time also I have explained you that our country or the constitution is totally follows the principle of secularism. But if it will harm anyone, the constitution will intervene. If it is, if by our religious practices, the basic rights or the fundamental rights of any community is being violated by us, the constitution will interfere. So, take an example of untouchability only. Untouchability is a good example of same religion. Upper caste Hindus dominate other members, that is, lower caste with it. In order to prevent this religious based exclusion and discrimination of lower caste, the Indian constitution bans untouchability. Now, untouchability is banned in India and it is a punishable offense in India. You will be punished if you are found following this practice. In this instance, the state is intervening in religion in order to end a social practice that it believes discrimination and excludes and that violate the fundamental rights of the lower caste who are citizen of this country also. So you are able to understand the constitution will intervene if it is excluding or discriminating someone and if the fundamental rights of some group is violating by us by practicing our religion. The next one is the intervention of the state can also be in the form of support. Now, our constitution also support religious communities in a positive manner. How? In a positive manner, the Indian constitution grants the right to religious communities to set up their own schools and colleges. In our country, you can have a look. There are lots of examples of the school or colleges that are run by religious communities like madrasas, like Aligarh Muslim universities, and there are many school and colleges that are run by Hindu communities also. It also gives them financial aid on a non-preferential basis. Our constitution or the government also provides financial funds to these organizations or institutions on a non-preferential basis. It is not that necessary that it will provide financial fund to only Hindu colleges. or Hindu communities. It will provide provident funds to every institution that is run by any religion. Now, it is the time for the conclusion. What we come through this know to through this chapter: secularism and the Constitution of India. Students, the term secularism was added to the preamble of the Constitution by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment in 1976. The preamble describes India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Even it was adopted, the constitution has distinct salient features. Now we will see that what are those features. The constitution declares that India has no official religion. The state does not promote any particular religion. No religious group will rule the country. Government agencies like local police stations, government schools, and offices do not promote any religion. That we have learned now only. The state is separated from religion. The state does not interfere with the religious practice of its citizens. Every person living in the country has the right to follow his or her own religion and celebrate his or her own festivals. There is a complete freedom of religion. However, sometimes if a religious procession or celebration might lead to disruption of laws and orders, sometimes if a religious practice or celebration is violating the law and order, the police can intervene and impose some restrictions on us. Citizens following any particular religion have the right to cast their vote during elections or contest elections. Now, whenever there is general elections, we are having universal adult franchise. That means each and everyone who is adult is having the right to cast their votes without any discrimination on the basis of religion. The government does not discriminate among people on the basis of religion. The state does not consider the religion of an individual while admission to educational institution or recruitment in government services. Whenever we are going to for admission to any school or for any job opportunity, we should not be discriminated on the basis of religion. People belonging to every religion have the right to build places of worship anywhere in the country. The people belongs to any religion, they are having the right that they can build their place of worship wherever they are willing to build in country. The right to freedom of religion is one of the most important fundamental rights guaranteed to all the citizens of the country. In our fundamental rights, we are having six fundamental rights. From that rights, one right is right to freedom of religion also. So this part is over now. Please read the chapter, watch the video, and note down the important notes in our additional copy. Thank you, students.